Okay. Hi guys, this is Aditya this side, and today I'm here with Ekansh and another senior of ours, Dr. Amitabh, and we're going to do another video on the previous series that we started with regards to unorthodox or alternative careers of excellence within the medical field, or perhaps outside the medical field once you've done your MBBS. And Dr. Amitabh is a very good example of how he's established himself in Singapore in a pharma company. So I'm just going to let you start off, Dr. Amitabh, and you can talk about where you are.
So thanks Aditya and Ekansh for inviting me for in this forum and kindly address me Amitabh. I think being in industry, we start addressing by their names. So unless you are a Japanese person, you have to always respect with a san, but otherwise we call them by their names. So
Absolutely.
hi, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, everyone. So I am Amitabh Dash, and I am currently working as a regional medical director for a Japanese multinational that is Eisai Pharmaceuticals. So it's a research-based innovative company focused on oncology and neurosciences, and I'm looking after the neurosciences division for the Asia region. So my journey started off from pharmaceutical industry in way back in 2009 after completion of my post-graduation in pharmacology. And then in 2010, I got an opportunity to work for this Japanese multinational. And I worked as a medical advisor for India for a couple of years. And then looking into my contribution to the organization, I got an opportunity for a regional medical affairs position. And I was interviewed for that, and then I got selected. So from 2012 onwards, I have been handling the medical affairs for Asia region for the last 9 years, 10 years. So that has been my journey so far in this company. And I really feel lucky to be working with the same organization, that the opportunities have come across within the organization. So I didn't have to ponder or look beyond this company. So it has
It's
always been
it's
a learning
abundantly
curve.
clear, boss, that you've done very well for yourself, where you're happy with where you are. But I think for a lot of people, it's about how to get to that point. So if you can talk a little bit about, how you did your MBBS,
Yeah.
what you
So
did to embark on this journey.
okay, so when we started off, so to be honest, when I got into MBBS, it was more of a peer pressure because my dad was a doctor, my brother was a doctor, he was into medical school then. And coming from a city town like Bokaro, where every other kid is either is an engineer or a medical student, so I had no other option. But my natural tendency, my inclination was always into arts, curriculum, sports. So I was always into sports and all those activities. But after 10th, yes, I had both the streams, medical, maths, and biology. But then I appeared
So-called
for,
PCMB.
yeah, PCMB, and then I was selected both for both. Uh, it was for the KSET that I was appearing for, and then engineering happened, and for medical also. And luckily, I had taken admission in Bangalore back then, and then this BHU offer letter came in. Sorry, the rank letter came in, and I was not expecting to be uh,
I think, boss, that's
selected.
probably with all of us who go to BHU. There is always it's that you get the rank letter, and it's always unexpected because you don't
Yeah,
even know that you'll get into it.
yeah.
And,
So my rank was somewhere around 87, and probably I was the 16th or the 17th candidate to be counseled, and I got in. And definitely during my MBBS days also, the reason was that I always loved a dynamicity in my life. Always love to be in a corporate world, something where you would be traveling, you would have more exposure, meeting people and
You
around. So
had you had that inclination for being in a corporate field since
yes,
not
MBBS.
that fun fact. Well, I would still call you Amitabh boss actually because you are still my senior and I'm used to that from VHU, and that is not something that's going to go away. But Amitabh
yeah.
was one of the most dynamic personalities in our college and one of the seniors that we all used to look up to. And he was also the pioneer of starting the college's fashion show, and he was a judge as who is the best coming and walking in the best.
Yeah.
and that was something that he was very popular for.
So that is where I have learned in my life that if you come across challenges, if your challenges are thrown up to you, then probably you'll always find the possibilities and take these opportunities as a to grow in your career. And that has always been in my life, that I have been quite competitive in terms of from the sports itself, that except studies, I was very good at everything, because if something is thrown up to me, I'll take it as a challenge. And when I was in MBBS, yeah, definitely I never had those inclination towards clinics or whatsoever. And during my PG days, the rankings also, I got all the non-clinical branches.
So
And
you did go for your postgrad after you did your MBBS.
yeah, so I did my postgrad in pharmacology,
And where
and
was that from?
that was also from BHU.
So
So
you
I
were a
was,
total BHU
yeah,
candidate from.
yeah, 9 years.
And
So
at what point did you finally? Because I mean, and I say, and I ask this because I'm sure a lot of people I've spoken to,
yeah,
this problem is
yes,
somehow got into medicine, but have never really felt at home being in medicine,
yeah,
and they've
yeah,
always felt an inner calling to maybe
yeah,
corporate world or something slightly
yeah,
different, but they've probably not been able to make that jump.
yeah.
Is what is it that made you gave you that strength to make that jump and say, you know what?
So yeah, so what I will say is that uh, it was never a conscious decision to be into pharmacology or pharmaceutical industry. That was something that came across to me, and then I started exploring what could be the opportunities in non-clinical. And my brother, he is an orthopedician also. He is in some medical college in Bhubaneswar, and his batchmates were into pharma industry. Ran a couple of his good friends who were rank holders and
Mhm.
skipped clinical branches had joined the pharmaceutical industry like Ranbaxy and GSK back then. And then I had a discussion with them, open discussion with them, what are the opportunities in pharmaceutical industry, and then they guided me through that, what the pharmaceutical industry looks like in India and what
Hmm.
could be a potential growth in the field. And
Okay.
finally, so I took a pharmacology as a subject, and I had no intentions to appear for any postgrad exams thereon. Even my guide were quite pessimistic about that. You are ruining your career being in a pharmacology, what you'll be doing in being a academician or so. So there was no guidance. So it was more of a self impetus that was coming in from within, that I
Okay.
had to
So
do
even
something
when you
good in.
started your postgrad, you had a you had your
Yeah,
set.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But I think
And
the networking that you did was very important, isn't it? So it's always important to talk to more and more people before
yes,
jumping into major life decisions. The more your network
yeah,
advice from different people from different strata of life, that,
yeah,
that really helps and gives you a push that
yeah.
not the only thing that you can do.
I think the biggest factor that more than the networking is important. I completely agree with you, is that networking is important, and in today's world, it is really really important to be in touch with the industry people or the people around within the pharma industry. But more so is that your self motivation is the key. I was from the beginning, you as you know, from a BHU background, no one is there was there in the pharmaceutical industry, and nobody expected anything from you back then.
Mm.
And
Mm.
this gave me a major impetus that yes, I have to do something good in pharma industry, and I'll set up an example for everyone. So that is how it rolled up. After completion of my post graduation days also, I was without a job for 3 months, 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
And there was a push that let's join the pharmaceutical industry, sorry, medical college for the timing
Mm.
as academics. But I was clear no about it, that if I have to join, I have to join a pharma industry.
Okay.
So I had those struggles, that I had been interviewed by many pharma companies, but I didn't have that uh, godfathers to back me up, because everything works as a, like any industry, it also works with some backing.
Yeah.
So I
So
joined a
how
pharma
did you
industry.
go about looking for these jobs? I know a lot of people
Yes.
who
So
want
back
to do
then,
this.
2009, you didn't have those much of LinkedIn's around.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so we used to go through this Naukri.com or jobmonsters.com, and then few of my colleagues who were in KEM Mumbai, so they had
Mm-hmm.
joined pharma industry. We used to join some workshops. So
So it was a bit of
pharmacovigilance
a
and
hit and miss by the sounds of it. I think you
yes,
literally sat down and you took multiple shots in the dark
yes,
and you just waited and
yeah, yeah.
So how did
And I,
you land up your current role?
sorry.
How did you land your current role where you are?
Okay, so to take you through that, I first job was a Indian pharma company, Walter Bushnell, that was based out of Delhi, and I just went into the uh, corporate office and said that I was looking for a job. So that is how I, and they just luckily they had a position and they interviewed me, and I whatever the starting salary was, I just said that I am okay with any salary you offer me.
I have a very important question. Did you walk
Yeah.
in like you did in your fashion show?
Sorry.
Did you walk in like you did in your fashion show?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't.
So so I would say so. So after a year, then I started exploring opportunities. I came across multiple opportunities in many pharma industry. It is more of a getting that break. And once you get into that break, then probably the experience will lead you to further opportunities. So getting into the industry is the biggest hurdle, I will say. And once you are into it, opportunities will come across to you. So I joined.
So,
Then in 2010, I got an opportunity for Eisai, and Eisai was a very small company in comparison to like companies like AstraZeneca, Novo, Pfizer. I was interviewed for them, but something within let me think that this company could be a good platform for me to uh, will give me opportunities. That is how the MD told me during the interview that what career path you can explore within Eisai.
okay.
And I always wanted to be a small fish in the big fish in the small pond rather than being lost in the bigger territories. So that is how it happened. And definitely my performance led to my career growth.
If
I
someone
had
is
some,
looking to make a career in
yeah,
pharma industry, now that
yes,
you've been in it, you speak from experience,
yeah,
almost a decade.
yeah,
What if you were to tell this to someone who was in your position back, say, 10 years ago? What is
yeah.
it that they can do to give themselves the best chance of giving themselves a successful career in the field? What is it?
Okay, so what I would say is that when a candidate gets into a pharmaceutical industry, his mindset should be completely different from what he sees in a clinical practice. So
Okay.
definitely your attitude matters. The scientific and the technical knowledge is not a challenge for a medical student because he is a master of the subject from the beginning. But when you get into a pharma industry, you have to work with various stakeholders within the company. You have to work with the commercial people, you have to work with the marketing people, sales team, you have to work with the R&D team. So you should come up with a mindset that you are not, you have to live behind your ego, that oh, I am a doctor so I should be well respected in the pharma industry. You are well respected, but then everybody works as a team. So this is where the mindset comes in. So what I'll say is the similarities is within the pharma and the clinical practice is the commitment towards patient's life. So you want to bring a meaningful change in the patient's life. In a clinical practice, probably you work on a one-to-one basis, but here you work on a to work to bring changes in the healthcare ecosystem as such, because the medicine is changing, the dynamics are changing. You are no more looking as a patient specific solutions, but patient centric solutions are important. So you need to have that knack of uh, having that technical expertise, but also you need to have a understanding in terms of adaptability to the industry.
Mhm.
Business acumen is also required, that you have the better understanding about how the businesses go around,
Mhm.
and the tenacity, the perseverance that is required within the industry. So these are the few skill sets that is required for a medical grad to get into the industry.
And what can they do to, refine those
So
that you
yes.
mentioned?
So as I said that you cannot fathom the flow of the or the depth of the river by sitting on the banks. You have to dive in.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
similarly, I'll say that you need to have some understanding about the pharmaceutical industry. There are various courses that goes around that is just um, diploma courses or workshops that happen keep around that talks about the industry, how does the industry work, what is the function of medical affairs within the pharmaceutical industry. So if they know the know-how about the pharma industry, then they will go miles in the setting up a career.
Mhm.
So it's important that your attitude and adaptability is key for getting into the pharmaceutical industry.
So, how
Yeah.
has your experience been in this industry so far? And what is your experience that you would like to share with everybody else who wants to come in?
Okay. So basically, when we joined in as in the pharma industry 10 years back, the medical affairs dynamics has changed a lot. The role of medical affairs has become profoundly very important in pharmaceutical industry, what we see now than in back then 10 years or 15 years back. Previously, medical affairs were more of a support function. Then it became more of a collaborative function. Now it has becoming they are the drivers of pharmaceutical industry,
Mm.
because with more and more precision medicine coming in, the scientific knowledge and the medical expertise that is required, it all is medically driven. Because no, pharma industry is more focusing on gene profiling, precision medicine and all. So the medical knowledge and know-how is important for a uh, medical expert to drive those medical strategies and
Mhm.
henceforth going forward. And that
I
is
think
where,
a burning
yes,
question now is how do you see this pandemic, the whole COVID scenario, the impact that because it's obviously going to have a massive impact on the on your industry. How do you
yeah,
see it changing? And for someone coming into the pharma industry post pandemic era, I hope when we get there,
yeah.
what can they do? What would be different in your
So, so I think the crux never changes. Eventually, what you are looking is in terms of patient-centric solutions that you are looking forward. What
Mhm.
has changed in the pharmaceutical industry after the pandemic or during this pandemic is that everything has moved into a virtual world. So every engagements with the physicians, doctors, conferences, everything is going in a virtual platform. So this is how where the adaptability or is important, that how you change yourself based on the situation. So if you are the slowest mover, probably you will always lag behind. And if you are the fastest mover, probably you will lead ways. So
Mm.
now the medical affairs, what they are looking into is how we can bring about digital engagements with the physicians without affecting the business. So there is always a commercial aspect to the pharma industry because nobody does this for philanthropy. But the motto is that if you are working for the patient's, business will come ultimately. So it will the round way around. So that if you work towards the patient, focus on patients, business will come automatically.
And
So
I think that's the crux in even for a
yeah,
doctor, as long as
yes,
you're dedicated for patients, patients.
yeah, completely. So completely agree with that. So the trial designs have changed. Now the trials are being conducted at home. There
Mhm.
have been tests that monitoring can be done at home, so patients do not have to land up into the hospitals. There are situations where how the COVID-19 situation will lead to a patient engagement. For example, I'll say I work for Alzheimer's disease. So Alzheimer's disease patients cannot come down frequently. They are elderly patients. They cannot come
absolutely?
down to the hospitals frequently. So how they can be monitored at home? So you have to look into such specific solutions that the patient journey is not affected. So it is important that post pandemics also that things will change. We hope the things will change for good. But if the situation prevails, probably we have to continue. We have to change the entire ecosystem completely. And for grads and postgrads, now the pharmaceutical industry do look into medical professionals. They are desperate need of medical professionals because with the increase in the scientific knowledge and know-how, technicalities becoming very difficult. So they know they need people, doctors, physicians who can ably support them in terms of the scientific knowledge that has to be dispersed to the external stakeholders. So it is important. So there are
I guess what you're
opportunities are
saying
huge,
is there's a definite demand, there's a definite
huge
need,
demand. I'll say a huge
there's a
demand.
definite space for people to move in.
Yeah.
As a final message, what would be your final message to someone who is looking to follow in your footsteps? For them to take away few words, a few lines from
Okay.
interaction.
So what I will say is that the personal interest and the strengths have a major role to get into the pharmaceutical industry. What they should know is working in a pharmaceutical industry and a patient care in a hospital, the similarities, I will say that the similarities are that the commitment to improve the patient's life is important. Second is the medical knowledge and continuous medical education, that you need to have that advancements that are going around in the field of medicine. Collaboration with academics as well as experts across different fields is important. And third, fourthly is will be the scientific rigor as key to the success. So there is no replacement to it. And adaptability is important to situations, even in whether you are in the hospital setting or you are in the industry setting. What is different is in pharma industry, there is no direct patient contact.
Mhm.
So we don't come in contact with the patients. Medical impact is mostly on the larger scale, that we work towards improving the healthcare system ecosystem. We understand the unmet medical needs and how we can provide those solutions to the healthcare ecosystem in that therapeutic space. Outputs may be indirect, so we can't see the direct impact of our efforts. So, and definitely traveling and all would be an important aspects. Key communication skills are important. How you communicate with your KOLs, key opinion leaders, these are certain aspects that you differs for pharmaceutical industry with that of the pharma industry.
That's very
And yeah, and if I'll say that uh, transitioning into the pharmaceutical industry is not easy. So this is a life-changing decision. So you need to have a very specific mindset when you come into the industry, that you have to leave behind certain things to grow in the career. And there is no dearth. People have grown into, means, is any field you work in, if you have the commitment to do it, you will grow in those domain completely. So whether it's pharma industry or whether it's in your
absolutely.
physician career or itself, so any industry wherever there is some commitment that is required. So if you are committed towards it, then probably there is no stopping you in growing in your
Yeah.
specific field. That
Right.
is the key.
Those are very, very wise words, Dr.
Yes.
Amitabh. So, boss, I think we're going to close it over here. Uh,
Yeah.
Very, very informative chat, I would say. I think
Yes.
people would really, really benefit from hearing an expert like you as to say, what they have to offer. And, I think it's going to be a big motivator for people who are
No, I
looking.
think, yes, I completely agree with you. And please feel free, if anybody wants me to be in touch, you can pass on my number, because this is a biggest challenge that I come across every day. I get a message on LinkedIn, I want to join pharma industry, and I want to be in your position. So it requires a lot of perseverance and patience. Young grads passing, they don't have the patience. They just want to be landing in that position straight away. That is the first question that comes in. So I have to take them a step back and ask them, what do you see, how do you see pharma industry as such, what is your opinion, what are your views, so that it doesn't come as a shocker to them. So these
We'll,
are some of the practical situations.
we'll share your email in this video.
Definitely, definitely. You can share the LinkedIn contacts as well as email ID. You can pass on my number also. I'm always happy to help, because I have been in a situation 10 years back. I don't want people to be going through the same situation now. So I'm more than happy to help those people around who want to see an alternative career in pharmaceutical industry.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, boss, for coming in. And
Thanks. It's a pleasure.
right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thanks.
Amitabh. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
It was a pleasure. Pleasure is mine. Thanks. Thanks a lot. And stay
All
safe
right.
during this pandemic situation.
We will. And hopefully, I think, I'm sure this will help a lot of people, and we will have
Yeah.
quite a few people reaching out.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. I'm missing those travelings that I used to have. Otherwise, I would have been landing somewhere in UK very soon. Would have loved to catch up with you all. But then, yeah.
All right. See you. Bye.
See you. Bye bye. Take care.